Hello, everybody. So welcome. We're going to kick it off in just a second. We're going to talk to you all about the field applications. So I'm Sarah St. Ruth. I'm Senior Product Manager here at Esri. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Sounds like it's very loud here. I've got some thumbs up, great. So I'm Senior Product Manager here at Esri. I look after a bunch of the field applications that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about field maps, we're going to be talking about Survey123, we're going to be talking about QuickCapture. We've got a lot of exciting stuff to share. So I'm going to do this because I do this in every single session, but can I have a quick hands up for those that use our field apps today? Awesome. Okay. So some of this might be, familiar to you. Maybe you could even teach us a thing or two about how to do some of this stuff. But we'll show with you guys stuff that's new as well, stuff that you might have not quite caught in our latest releases. So I'm going to introduce my esteemed colleagues as well. So Jeff, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, Jeff Shaner. I'm the product engineering lead for ArcGIS Field Maps, ArcGIS Workforce, and ArcGIS Navigator.
And hi, I'm James Tedrick. I'm a senior product engineer working on Survey123 and QuickCapture.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Hi everyone, Brett Stokes. I'm another product engineer, mainly working on Survey123 and QuickCapture. I'm just going to be moderating, taking a look at some of the live questions coming in.
Yeah, so thank you for everyone who's joined us today. We do appreciate it's the first day of the conference and the last session. So thank you for joining us and for those that are joining us online as well. So let's kick this off. You will probably have seen a slide of this description for a couple of years now. This is really how we kind of define field operations in the ArcGIS system. So we start off right at the beginning, planning and coordinating everything that you need to do before you go out into the field. And then we've got awareness. This is all about making sure that the folks in the field have the information they need to make informed decisions. Got capture. It's so important to us, and I'm sure important to you guys, that we've built free experiences for it. And that's really deliberate. We wanted to offer variety based on the types of workflows that you were addressing. And finally, we've got integration. This is one that's always existed, but I've noticed a lot more in the conversations that we have with you guys here throughout the year, how much more this is becoming a topic about how to integrate field workflows, both with the wider GIS workflows, but also wider business systems. So I'm going to take you through each of these just in a little more detail. So plan and coordinate, like I said, it's about everything that you do before you go into the field. Now, we build, I would say, two experiences when you work with our field applications. We build a designer experience. I'll try not to make you put your hands up, but we can get a stretch in there as well. Can you put your hands up if you've used the designers either for field maps, field maps, QuickCapture, and Survey123, great, okay. So that really is your tool to take a general map and the data and make it really focused for the mobile audience. A couple of things that I would personally recommend is, taking the time to have a look in the tabs that exist. Maybe you're going into the form tab, that's kind of where you work primarily, but maybe check out some of the others because we've been putting new capabilities there to make it easier for you to go out into the field. Next up is obviously the field side. So we're doing a lot of work in the field side. We're going to talk a lot about this in the road ahead, but we've been looking at, how can people easily prioritize the work, communicate that to their teams out in the field. This was previously met with Workforce, and we are doing some work to bring that into the other field applications. So we'll share some of that with you later this week. Next up is awareness. So this is that situational awareness, giving them the understanding that they need. And this is using that enterprise data, but it's also combining it maybe with other data sources, whether that's from the Living Atlas or maybe a data provider from local governments. And there's loads of ways that we surface this information, right? So first of all, there's the symbology, what it looks like actually on the map. But then we've got pop-ups. Now, pop-ups got a big upgrade last year in the field space. We brought in support for pop-up elements. And these are really, really powerful. If you're not using these today, just honestly, when you get back, spend a little bit of time or come and talk to us at the expo and we can show you some of the amazing things that you can configure. You know, you're going to be able to combine all of these sources of information to really give a mobile view to your team. And then we've got other things which are really cool, like geofences. This was something that we brought in last year. I think it was last year. Yeah, everything's blurred, but yeah, I think it was last year. And these geofences, they power two key pieces of functionality. One of them is these location-aware notifications. So, you know, you can tell team members, you know, there's a reports of a dangerous dog, be careful. You know, you can give them those messages when it matters without them having to search through layers of information. So really, really powerful. And then we support kind of exploring data with these advanced data models, such as the utility network, being able to trace, being able to view associations, being able to view the features. Really what we're trying to do here is create an environment where anybody can interact with GIS data and they can interact with it on the device that they need. So making those tools really, really simple and straightforward. I'll talk to you a little bit now about a situational awareness in a slightly different way. So we're very familiar with working with 2D maps, familiar with working with those in the field, but we do have a 3D experience in the ArcGIS system. And this is ArcGIS Earth and ArcGIS Earth Mobile. So if this is a new application to you, or maybe you heard about it many years ago and wondering what's going on, this is an app I would take, especially if you've got 3D workflows, take a look at. It's got not just the ability to render and view 3D models, but it also has some tools in there like the ability to do line of sight and measurements. I would be personally very interested if anyone's got any 3D workflows they'd like to talk about in the field. Please come find me, or I'm happy to share my contact details. But take a look at Earth. Oh. I should have rehearsed that slide. There we go. So you can see all the little animations. So capture, like I mentioned, it's such an important part of what people are doing in the field. We've got 3 experiences for it. I imagine a few of you may have asked, well, what one do I use? Do I use Survey123? Do I use field maps? The answer is that you can use either. It is really purposely designed that way. And the reason being is that sometimes it makes a lot of sense to just put users directly in the form. If you're trying to create a, oh, have we lost? There we go. If you're trying to take a 10-page paper form and it's got lots and lots of detailed elements that you want to be able to capture directly into GIS, you're probably going to want to do that in Survey123. But you've also now got the smartphone capability in field maps. That means that, you know, if you have got the ability to capture information and automate some of those inputs that traditionally they would have had to type out in the field, you've now got that power directly in field maps too. The question being for you guys is just whichever one you pick, does it meet your requirements? And if it doesn't, have a chat with us, you know, share those capture requirements. We're always looking at improving it across all of the apps. And of course, we've got QuickCapture. You know, this is the idea that you're just rapidly capturing observations in the field. There's not very much information you need. Location's the primary thing that you're collecting. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about a integration.
I'm going to try and move it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, integration. So this is really looking at the fact that it's already part of the ArcGIS system. So I'm sure a few of you use dashboards today to represent your field data, share that information with your stakeholders. Absolutely, so the traditional, they kind of go hand in hand together. But we've also got reports that we've built into the field applications. So this is surfaced through Survey123, but you can actually hook it up to any of the field applications. And if you're interested in those workflows, come and have a chat with us at the expo and we can kind of show you that too. So yeah, dashboards, reports. But then we've also got this desire to really look at how do we integrate with wider business systems. So we've got ArcGIS connectors. We've got those for Power Automate and for Make. And that's leveraging webhook technology. So really powerful. It allows you to really chain together systems and automate a lot of the heavy manual lift that goes around. I think that's me, actually. Oh, finally, new and improved. I won't talk too much on this because I don't want to take away any thunder from any of the stuff that we're describing, but I think, here we're really trying to improve it across the board. We're trying to look at how do we improve situational awareness? How do we give you more capabilities with capture by leveraging AI, for example, with our camera assistants? How do we support more sensor integration, looking at laser rangefinders? So I will leave it there from me, and I'm excited to, hand it over to Jeff. There you go.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for the intro. So I'm going to focus on what's new with ArcGIS Field Maps for the next 15 minutes or so. But let's start by introducing the product. If you haven't used it before, Field Maps is our latest mobile application. We released its first version in November of 2020, so in the middle of COVID. And what we did was we brought together into a one-app experience previous applications that you might have used with ArcGIS Collector, ArcGIS Explorer, and ArcGIS Tracker, so that we could have one experience for data capture, improving awareness, and exploring and working with maps. And one of the things that you may or may not know about it, it works with all different user types in the system. So predominantly what we see our customers doing is using our mobile applications for data capture with a mobile worker user type or a creator. But you can also use field maps with a viewer, and you can use your maps offline. You can actually get geofences if you'd like as well. Use location sharing with an add-on experience for that. So know that it supports the full spectrum of our user types today. And from the patterns that Sarah talked about earlier, we've made sure to kind of enhance the system to support a lot more configuration capabilities. And the way that we did that was, in addition to the mobile application, we introduced a designer application called Field Maps Designer that's embedded inside of ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. Lets you not only configure an existing web map to support different tooling or capabilities, forms, whatnot, in the map, but also create new maps. And we've been doing a lot of work in this effort to kind of lower the bar of entry so that you can kind of go to a self-service model for the units of business that you feel could make their own data collection projects if you want inside of ArcGIS without you having to do all that work for them. So there's the Field Maps Designer, the Field Maps mobile application as our two primary components. With Field Maps Designer, we've been dramatically introducing new capabilities over a whole series of releases since that early November 2020 update. Like I mentioned, creating maps and layers directly inside of the designer is a possibility. Being able to configure properties of the map, properties of the app as well, so that you can centralize some of the application settings back to the map and the mobile user doesn't need to do them. Configuring your layer content, and I'll talk about this as one of our what's new updates, but you can, from the Field Maps Designer, open up an embedded view of the map viewer and do things like change symbology, alter other aspects of the layers themselves, refresh rates, all those things that you need to tweak in order to make the most of your mobile experience. We've been introducing through the Field Maps Designer the way to author smart forms. The way that we've done this, if you weren't aware, is that we've been building them as components that can be used across the ArcGIS system. And the web editing demonstrations you might have witnessed today inside of the plenary have been a culmination of efforts between all of our teams working together to kind of build a unified experience for authoring forms and editing forms, whether that be on a mobile device, in your browser, on a desktop. And then we're working on the pro team. We'll maybe get the forms work in there too. Creating geofences, whether that be for those location alerts or to control the behavior of location sharing as a capability. when you're out using the application in the field. Being able to manage the offline experience, so creating managed areas, but also we've been doing a lot of work on the validation of a map recently to make sure that it's capable of supporting offline workflow, so you don't have to troubleshoot as much as you have in the past. And then, of course, sharing and deploying the maps, so integrating with the portal information model to make sure that you share the maps and layers to groups, and you have that ability for your mobile workforce to just download and use the maps on their mobile device. Now, we ship at a cadence of each ArcGIS Online update, and that means that if you're an ArcGIS Enterprise user, the updates will roll into the next version. So as an example, we just had an update in February. It was just the first release of ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Field Maps for this year. All of the designer level functionality that was a part of that release will be in the ArcGIS Enterprise 11.3 update that's coming soon. So it's always that next update of Enterprise that sees the benefits of what we released in ArcGIS Online. In the mobile application, from those core apps that we pulled together, we've been dramatically adding new capabilities to the mobile app too. And Sarah touched on a few of them in her introduction piece, like the ability to get location-aware notifications so that map can be all sassy and talk back to you as you're using it in the field, being able to view and trace utility networks, be able to work with linear reference systems, obviously being able to capture data and bring together a forms and maps-based experience for that, adding new capabilities around high accuracy GNSS receivers, recording and sharing locations. And we also added support for not just outdoor location and outdoor maps, but indoor maps too. So if you're an ArcGIS Indoors user, in fact, let me ask that one too. Anyone deploying ArcGIS Indoors? Know that ArcGIS Field Maps fully supports ArcGIS Indoors today, not just indoor maps with floor awareness, but also if you use ArcGIS IPS, we've integrated ArcGIS IPS, so you could even have floor-aware location-based notifications happening as you're moving about the floors in your facilities. So what have we been doing for you lately? Well, last year we had 3 major updates. This is a big old list of all the major things that we did in each of those releases. And you'll have access to all this content, so I don't have to spend time going through it all for you and boring you to death with the minute details of what we did. I'll stop there and go to what we just did, and that's our February 2024 update. And our focus here has been on the Field Maps Designer. So one of the things that happened when we brought Collector and Explorer together is that those that are focused on data capture now had all of these markup capabilities. And we got feedback that some of you didn't really like that too much. We didn't want people marking up on top of the map. So we added a new setting so you can disable the markup tool. When you're managing your content in the Forms view, we have a new managed content experience there. We have a way to set a spatial reference when creating hosted feature layers so that you don't have to create hosted feature layers in WGS84 anymore. You can create them in your own local projection system. And then in the mobile side, honoring a lot of those capabilities. So let's take a little bit deeper look at some of these. One of them that I think is the most exciting new piece of functionality we added for the February update is this new info form element. So as you're working inside of a form, capturing information, you may want to provide additional context or instructions that help guide a mobile user to complete the work that they need to do. It's just a read-only element in the form. We implemented a solution using Markdown that supports a subset of the capabilities like bolding and italic and strike-throughs and numbering and bulleted lists, supporting URL links as part of that. And you can see kind of the list of stuff there. Now, what's really valuable about it is that you can drop these info form elements all over your form canvas and then leverage field substitution, calculated expressions, and display or hide these info form elements using conditional visibility with Arcade logic too. So only provide that extra information when it's needed, or change that information that's in the message based upon Arcade if you need to as well. Offline checks. This is just an area of focus you're going to see for a number of releases moving forward. We've been looking at kind of like the way that Pro publishes feature services and has an analyzer. We're going to go through in this content view and analyze your map for any potential challenges you might have or could face when working offline, and let you know not only what those individually are, but then give you ways to try to resolve that, whether it be removing a layer, going to the item details and being able to change settings on a layer, or whatnot. So we've got a number of updates that have happened here, and we've got more planned for our update that'll come in June as well. Creating layers, I think this is a pretty exciting one, to be honest. If you're doing field data collection and you want to use hosted feature layers, until now, the only way to really publish a new layer to be the source of your data collection effort with using a projected coordinate system has been to use ArcGIS Pro. There was nothing else available to you for that. Now we've kind of introduced an experience where you can choose or set the coordinate system that you want all of your data to be captured into. So if you're using an RTK network and you want everything local to the same projection that's used by that network, set up your data in your feature layers in that coordinate system. Likewise, we added a switch when you're creating layers. Not only do we support enabling Z values on that feature layer, but now we support M values. And if you're doing web editing, I'll just say that there's an update in February to ArcGIS Online, specifically for our linear referencing fans, that is about in Arcade being able to get distance, like measurement to coordinate conversions are just part of the Arcade expression language now too. So you can actually do calculated expressions using those new Arcade functions that are present. So linear referencing is starting to bubble more across the system architecture than what it has in the past. Managing layer content. I mentioned earlier that you could open up the embedded map viewer, but as you're creating layers and you're making changes to forms and stuff in the designer, it's nice to get into an experience where you can manage those layers. Maybe it's reordering the layers, maybe it's creating a group layer and moving feature layers into the group. You don't want to have to always go out to the embedded map viewer to do that. We introduced this concept of manage content when you're in that view, so you can start to manipulate the order of layers or remove layers or create groups. So that's there as of February as well. Sarah's favorite feature that we added, if you're creating a linear feature, as you're capturing vertices, we've added kind of this cumulative length measurement. That's what we've always had, but we never did it to what the proposed geometry was. So as you're moving the cursor, that extra segment that's not yet calculated because a vertex hasn't been dropped, we'll include that as part of the measurement value. So as you move and you snap and before you place, now you can see that additional distance value being added as well. And I think that's it. I'll pass it over to James to talk about survey.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
So hopefully you've used Survey123 before. Just quick, again, let's just one more stretch break in. Who's used Survey123? All right. If you haven't, Survey123 is our form-centric field data collection as well as web data collection solution, where we can make it easy for you to author surveys either on our desktop using Survey123 Connect or via our Survey123 designer and the website. Set your form out either with the mobile app, which we'll be concentrating mostly on today, but we'll also talk about the web capabilities, and then share the results with the stakeholders that need to see the information. As I said, we're looking primarily at the Survey123 Field app, as this is the Field app's What's New session. It's, of course, available on iOS, Android, and Windows, and you can take your data, or take your form and accompanying data out into the field in a connected or a disconnected workflow. It works with external GNSS receivers, as we'll actually see in a little bit, laser rangefinders, RFID, and other sensors. The web app is, as you might expect, the form in the web. We see a lot of people using this, especially for public data gathering, putting just a simple web link that the users can go in, input the information, and bring it into your ArcGIS organization. We also can embed these within your own websites, as well as have the form be part of other products like Experience Builder or Operations Dashboard to allow for those products to have interactive editing. Few highlights that we wanted to cover this year with this past year with Survey123 is for both Connect app and Web Designer, we now support multilingual surveys throughout the process of creating and displaying a form. We've also introduced support for new field types that have come with ArcGIS Enterprise and ArcGIS Online over the past year. Within Connect, we've implemented location sharing, so supporting that, not only seeing your own blue dot on your device, but the back office can see your blue dot and understand where you are and what your status is. We've also brought in tools to make publishing easier, as well as identify common errors in form design, as well as brought in integration with LaserTech rangefinders, as well as AI models using smart assistants. So the new field types. How many people have heard of the date-only and time-only field types? Seeing a few people? These are really interesting in that we're able to store the date and time without regard of the time zone it was located in. For example, I was born at 9:45 p.m. on January 26th in Hawaii. So I was born on the 27th if we look here, or more importantly for my family, the East Coast where they live. What the new field types let us do is actually store that 9:45 p.m. and see that even though it was in 9:45 p.m. in Hawaii, we see it as 9:45 p.m. when we're looking at it in the East Coast. Is that making sense? Similarly, for the date, one of the things that we know is that we have the date of birth of January 26th. I will, for my own personal sake, not describe the year. Again, if I looked at the East Coast, that was the 27th. Well, no, my license says the 26th. My license, when I lived on the East Coast, says the 26th. So again, we keep that same value across. It also means that we can have people submit data all over the world and be able to do analysis of what occurred on that day from their perspective. These are very powerful. If you're collecting data across a variety of time zones, I really encourage you to take a look at them. These are slowly rolling out. There are beta features within ArcGIS Enterprise as more and more of our client tools get support for them. But one of the areas that that fueled this were worldwide surveys that were going on, especially during COVID. So we were, once they were made available in the platform, we wanted to make sure that we could support them within our forms. Multilingual surveys are also very important, especially for public data collection. Many of us live and work in cities where there may be cities, counties, and states where there may be multiple languages either commonly used or legally used. For example, Canada, very famously has both English and French, and all government documents need to be published in both languages. So within Survey123, we've supported reading or displaying multiple languages for a number of years. We've now brought in the ability to create multiple translations inside our web designer, as well as to import and export translation files. So you specify which languages you want the survey to be translated to, and we create a set of Excel files, one for each language, that you can send to a translation service. You can then import those files once translated and have that added to your form. It makes the entire process and workflow of translation a lot simpler and a lot more regularized. So again, we can also add in languages inside of the web designer. One ask when we initially released this, we initially released this for the languages that ArcGIS Online support. There's a bit over 24 of those. However, there are many languages that, that means that there are many languages that we don't support via that official support list. So we've added the ability to add additional languages as well inside the web designer. And then finally, we've introduced with our latest release a beta feature for automatic translation. So again, you specify the language. We're working with an AI service to create an initial translation. We will say that it works great for some contexts. It doesn't work great in other contexts. For example, in pipe inspections, if you have a choice list that has lead as material, and admittedly we probably don't nowadays, you'll see occasionally it would automatically translate to the equivalent of lead, right? Same spelling, different words, very different meanings. So we know this is why this is in beta, and we also know that it probably will get us 90% of the way there to begin with when we actually release that. As I mentioned, we've also brought in support for the TruPulse rangefinder support. So we can use the laser rangefinder to go measure offset distances if we can't physically get to the site of observation, or the site we're observing. Also, we can use it to measure heights along the way. Connects with Bluetooth via Survey123. There are two devices, the 200X and the 360, well, two device model types, 200X and then the 360 R&B. The 360 includes a inbuilt compass, so we can actually get azimuths from there. So just as an example, Brett was kind enough to do a field demo for me. I tried to get him to do it now, but we don't have quite enough stuff to measure. So he's measuring first to the straight line of sight to the object, then to the base, on up to the first top mark, and then the second top mark. And you can see that we're recording those as we bring it in, and then finally, top of pole. We're recording those as we get the information from the rangefinder and bringing them into the form. We've also enhanced, as I mentioned, with smart assistants. This is taking AI models and taking them with your form out into the field. So AI at the edge. You can classify a model. You create your own model for either object detection or image classification, associate it with the survey, configure the question to use the model, and then have that happen live as you see in the camera preview. In addition, object detection also means that we can do things like face recognition and face blurring so that we can redact automatically, so we don't get incidental people inside our photographs of the important things like our street signs. We also have a session, sorry, I should have mentioned that, we also have a session on Thursday if you want to explore that more. Another area that we're exploring with AI is with our Survey123 designer, creating an assistant that, just like you saw in the plenary when somebody was asking in chat to help me make sense of this data, we can ask a question and have a form design. So here I can go in, ask it to create me a form to review a farmer's market. It comes up with the form design. I say, great, create it, and it then comes into the form. I'm now going to switch over to ArcGIS QuickCapture. QuickCapture is our rapid data capture solution. It's designed basically around big buttons. Just as you go through, you see the feature you want to mark, press the button, the data gets recorded, and if we're connected, uploaded. Trying to make it as simple and easy for our audience to be able to collect information. We beta test on our kids. Here you can see an example. Don't worry, this is in Australia, so the driver is actually on the other side. But as we're going through at speed, we're pressing the button, notifying what type of sign it is, what type of debris it is, or whether there's a road sign, and we can see that get uploaded immediately into our map. The idea is, accompanying that, we have the ability for some limited additional attributes. We support right now up to 10 button user inputs with the form. We do want to keep this rapid. We have heard people want more and more. There is a fine line between this becoming a quick solution and this becoming a full form, and we want to try to keep it on the quick side of it. We also support what are called project user inputs. So that's when you open the project, you can set in some parameters that then are sent with each object. So for example, which team are you submitting for? And we've lost the presentation. It's had a long day. There we go. We've recently put in support for arcade expressions within QuickCapture to automatically calculate data as we're collecting a point. This includes things like point and polygon queries, where you can connect a expression to a feature layer that's hosted in ArcGIS Online, and then calculate out information from that. That will occur right before submission. Again, because this is a quicker and less complicated form, we're able to do that by simply waiting, for the QuickCapture, the application to be online again before submittal. Wanted to highlight, we have a very full program today. Today, tomorrow, Thursday, and even Friday. With a variety of sessions on field maps, on Survey123, on QuickCapture, on capabilities that we all share in common as well. So encourage you to take a look. Field would be a great keyword inside the Esri app to search. And just wait, saw a few more photos. Yep. Of course, we're happy to take your feedback via the Esri application. You can leave a feedback on this or any other session. We, of course, can encourage you to connect with us on social media via the variety there. Also, you can get resources for this as well as in general from our GitHub organizations as well as the Esri community. On behalf of Sarah, Jeff, Brett, myself, thank you for joining us both here and online, and we are very happy to take questions. Brett.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Might as well start with a few that have come through our live stream audience. So take your pick, whoever wants to answer these. The first one came from Robert. Will field maps absorb workforce, and if so, when?
Do you want me to take?
Go for it,
Yeah, so with ArcGIS Field Maps, we're working on a brand new version of the entire product right now. And we're going to talk about that in the Road Ahead session, and we're going to demonstrate a new capability that we're introducing called tasks. That new capability will come in with this next big update. We're thinking it might be close to the end of this year, it might stretch into Q1. But it will include all of the major capabilities of ArcGIS Workforce. It will do a lot more than Workforce did. And we'll continue to support ArcGIS Workforce for the foreseeable future. Sarah will tell us when we can deprecate it. But we're not going to enhance it anymore. There's no new features that are going to come into that product.
And maybe just as a quick plug, that Road Ahead session is tomorrow at 10:30.
Excellent, thanks, Jeff. The next one comes from Ari. Will field maps include reporting tools similar to Survey123?
I can take that one if
Yeah,
you want.
take
Yeah.
that one.
Okay. So I mentioned a little earlier in the session that you can use the reporting capability now It doesn't matter if you're collecting data with Survey123 or with field maps. Would folks like some documentation on how that can be done? Are people using reports in the? Okay, yeah, no, we'll do something there. We'll showcase how that can be used. Right now, we don't have plans to build that same reporting capability in Field Maps Designer because it is already there in Survey123. But we are looking at the demand for reports. We know that they've been really highly adopted with Survey123 users. And we'll be taking a look at that and seeing how we can surface, that capability elsewhere as well. So just let us know if it's something that you need, and we'll figure out how we can make sure you guys can do that. But you can do it today, and come and have a chat with us if the need is urgent. We'll be at the expo.
Thanks, Sarah. One more, and then I'll come around and we'll ask the floor here. This one came from John, and the question is, can AI assistants work on Survey123 Connect?
So the question is, can AI assistants work on Survey123 Connect? Yes. Yeah, they can, because they work on Windows, and so as you're developing your form, you can preview them. You will see that the performance is somewhat different. The mobile devices are by far more optimized to use AI assistants than Windows is at this point as a platform. But you can at least test it, if you will, in Connect before publishing the survey.
Excellent. Yeah, so I guess put the call out to the audience here, and I'll raise your hand if you'd like a question. I'll come and give you the mic.
You said that, well, I already knew that updates will push to enterprise by a lag of 1 cycle. Does anyone know when the gallery view for attachments will come to enterprise?
Gallery.
Very specific, thank you.
I don't know.
Oh, the gallery view for attachments in the pop-up? Yeah, oh, pop-up elements. That should have been in the 11.1 release, actually. Yes. ArcGIS Enterprise 11.1. One of the things you can do inside of our documentation for field maps now is that we actually let you choose between enterprise versions, so you can see what functionality has been added in what release. And did we put that into the community site as well as a summary of all of the different changes by version? So that's available there too. Yeah.
So it's just a matrix, so it'll tell you which version to get what capability.
I have a question for field maps forms. Do you have any thing to add about the cohesiveness between the web map form designer and then how it integrates with field maps form designer? Seems like some things translate, some things if you do it there first, they don't translate, and etc.
I can take that one. There might be some follow-on we might have to have with you on that, but as far as the design of the form goes, that is actually the component that's used inside of Field Maps Designer that's in the map viewer. So it is one and the same. The definition of the form itself is written to the web map specification. So if you fancy opening up the JSON, you can go take a look at the way it's defined, and both the web view for hydrating that form in a web editor, as well as the mobile view reads off of that same definition. Now, there are a couple of things that we added into the form builder that are only there inside of web and not in mobile right now. Things like the relationship form elements. That might be one of the things you're thinking about. Part of that is the reason that we're kind of in this massive rebuild of the product right now. The date time fields that James mentioned, also another one that's available for the form on web editing, but not for mobile. We cried a little bit when we added that because we couldn't consume it in mobile. But those kind of things will be in our next major update, which has been driven by us getting on top of the latest versions of the ArcGIS Maps SDK. So that, if those are the things, like you're nodding your head, okay, yeah, those are the, yeah, we're kind of sad about that, but yeah.
Anyone else? Here we go.
Are there any plans to allow us to specify which organizational locator a map uses? Does that make sense?
For field maps, you mean, or?
Yeah.
So is the question that you've got one map and you want certain users to be able to see things? What could you just explain a little bit more about the
So
workflow?
like on ArcGIS Online, we have like a set of locators, but field maps only uses the top one.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's like if we have like water crews who aren't concerned about like parcel numbers or addresses, they want meter numbers, but they don't have access to that without us making that the default locator for everything on ArcGIS Online.
Yeah, that is a great point. It's a limitation of field maps today. We will use the topmost locator in the list, and you could make that a composite locator if you want and publish it, but that's really the only solution today. That's definitely on our roadmap to address that. Yeah, there's a few things around geocoding we want to introduce moving forward once we finish rebuilding the software from scratch.
Still got us for another 15 minutes here, so if you have any questions, these are the best 3 people to answer them. Here we go. Follow up.
In the middle of a lot of field map designing right now. You kind of, the subtypes was on the slide, but you didn't really touch on it. I'm curious of like where subtypes are going, and I have this like idea that it would be great to import a table of like what all the subtypes would be versus manually putting them in one by one. So just curious about maybe what your thoughts are about that. I put it in the Esri community, but I'm just gonna like toot my own horn.
You're voting yourself up right now. Yeah. As far as subtypes go, I mean, one of the things that we're going to introduce is defining a form at the subtype level, so it can be used in field maps that way. Oh, sorry, subtype group level. You mean the subtypes themselves? Well, one of the things we did just add into the February update is you can take your existing coded value domains and you can update that list, or you can replace that list. My laptop's going crazy. So if that happens to be a subtype field, that's a great question. We might have to take that one to the expo and figure it out. Yeah, there's a number of things we want to do there. One of the things that we want to introduce in the June update is support for subtype group tables, as well as subtype group layers. Do you happen to be using the utility network?
No, I'm doing the
Sign management solution. Okay. Yes. So when you have a classification system like that, one of the things we added in February of last year maybe was support for contingent values. Mm-hmm. So you might want to take a look at that if you haven't as well. Yeah.
Hi. Are there plans to include freehand polygon tools within field maps? And when might that be?
So that is a great question. So we absolutely do have supporting additional drawing methods in the roadmap view for field maps. We recognise that what we want to do with field maps is keep it simple and straightforward for people to use, and also it's used most commonly on a mobile device. So there's these considerations we need to take when we're thinking about how do we introduce these new drawing patterns. It's not just freehand's one of them. We also have other methods like split and merge, and lots of these requirements coming through for being able to work more with geometry. So the short answer is it's on our roadmap. We are also looking at beta testing some new capabilities. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to release them. That's the other thing. So it's probably not beta. It's more like putting out some user testing. There's going to be opportunities for that, for people to get involved and kind of test some ideas and give us some feedback about how we're thinking about bringing some of this stuff in. So yeah, we are looking at it. We're taking it really seriously. We just want to bring it into field maps in a way that's not going to make it too complex for folks that need that simple, way of capturing data in the field.
We'd love to hear your use case.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And if you want to get, and this is open to everybody, if you are interested in getting more involved in some of these opportunities for testing, first of all, join our early adopter communities. Secondly, we're all available on Esri Community. Feel free to send us a message on that, and we can, make sure that we've got you as somebody down. You can speak to your account managers, let them know that you want to be part of these opportunities. Basically, just tell us that that's the case, and we'll look at how we can get you involved, and not just across field maps, but across all of the field applications. And that goes to the folks online as well. So,
if you weren't aware, we use those feedbacks like from the community site and the vote ups for that. And we all get a room and we duke it out on priorities of what we're going to build next. So it's really important to get that feedback from you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll just go. This may be too specific for this session, but I work in public health, and so we sometimes collect or want to collect data that's protected by HIPAA. And so we have an enterprise portal to do that. And we're trying to balance the security side with the ease of access, ease of collecting data side. And so right now our portal is, it doesn't have a web adapter, so it's just on our intranet. And I guess I'm just curious if there are examples or if you guys have ideas about, you send people out in the field to collect data, and normally they sync that back to their enterprise portal or ArcGIS Online via the internet. Are there any alternatives if our, like I said, our portal doesn't have a web adapter?
I think I might address that one. So all of our field applications are foremost designed to work through, let's say, network communication. Right, it doesn't have to be internet. If it's a scenario where they are returning back to the office, which has access to the internal network, that would be perfectly fine for that. If we're looking at other transmission systems, we might want to sit down and talk with you about what that looks like, because a lot of them, with the exception of somebody maybe printing out a letter that contains all the data that gets rescanned in, most of those are going to use the internet in some form. But we could certainly talk about that, as well as if you had any other concerns. It sounds like you're doing pretty much everything right in terms of constructing a HIPAA-compliant workflow. So,
James?
So yeah, the sticking point sounds like you're thinking is the phone to the internal network. All of our apps support working with VPNs, which would be the normal default solution for that type of activity.
Real quick one in field maps, multi-select question types.
Oh, yeah. So it's not quite as simple. I know we've got it in Survey123, and I know that sometimes that can be confusing as to why it exists in one app and not the other. There's a couple of things that we need the system to also support before we can bring it into the mobile side. So as Jeff mentioned, we build all of our apps from our SDKs that are being presented at the Developer Summit here. But we are also looking at system capabilities. So there isn't a multi-select field type, for example. We're looking at how do we create standards and make sure that even if we did multi-select in field maps, how would that then, perpetuate through the rest of the system? But those conversations are happening. I know it takes a second for sometimes, and we know this is a big deal, like as is the geometry stuff. But yeah, we're absolutely working on it. We're getting the teams that need to be involved. We're having those conversations because we really do want to be able to support that capability. Again, this is not something that will come in the version of field maps that you've got today, but it is stuff that we're looking at for the next generation.
Would you want that for forms and web editing too? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to QuickCapture. So I have a QuickCapture that has Arcade that's pulling information from another layer in a web map. And it doesn't actually submit that record until I go to the little map in the right and hit like send records. And is that correct? And is there a way to get around that?
That sounds very familiar. That being said, that might be something we want to maybe take a quick look at in a bit more detail, because that shouldn't be the case. But I think we even saw something very similar in terms of behavior when we were at the demo theater or at the booth at the expo area. So that might be one we just want to take a little closer look at.
Thank you.
I think we've got time for one more if we.
Thanks. This is kind of similar to the question on QuickCapture. It's related to field maps, though. We're doing work with related records, and one thing that we try to do to make things simple for the field teams is, when they record a related record, we try to push some of that information back into the feature layer. But what we've discovered is that we can't actually push that information back into the field layer unless we hit the X on the pop-up, hit the X on the arcade or the next related record option, and then hit the pencil to basically pull that information into the feature layer. Is there any way to automate that? Because the field teams get pretty confused when we ask them to do that.
Yeah, that's a great question. That will come in the product when we support attribute rules. So attribute rules will be coming across the system for us to be able to leverage. And what happens today is when you make an edit on a feature, as you know, whether that's through an arcade expression or you manually entering something, the edits are confined to that feature alone and not any other features. That's kind of what the attribute rules are designed for. So the only way to really pull that off now would be, and it wouldn't work offline, is to have perhaps a webhook or some, I guess, attribute rule that would fire on the geodatabase after the apply edits call it happens. So it's pretty ugly right now. That would be kind of the only way to work around it. And a common ask around that too is, I want to symbolize off of a related record or label off of it. And that's the only way you're going to get that is through an update on the parent. Yeah. One of the other things, and it's been added into the web editor, and it was talked about this morning, is the related form elements. So bringing that form element into the parent, that'll help things a little bit when it comes to related editing, but still it's a little bit cumbersome today. Another thing, maybe I'll just say it as related, pun totally intended, is that we've seen a pattern emerge where people are using HTML content in the pop-up to create the related record. So off the parent, I can put a button using HTML that will then just create a related record. And some of the solution offerings have that plumbed in already. So we have a lot of work to do around the related records, yes.
Cool, thanks Jeff. Thanks everyone for coming along. If you have any more questions, we're here all week. Come see us at the expo. We've got a few more sessions. I think James put the slide up earlier relating to the field apps. So yeah, thanks for coming.